Welcome to the Humboldt Lighthouse Podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, let me introduce myself. My name is Nate Hankes. I started this podcast to help make sense of my own journey while shining a light on the unique depth and wisdom of Humboldt County, California, and beyond. To date, I've had conversations with mystics, yogis, healers, mindfulness teachers, poets, shamanic practitioners, artists, psychedelic explorers, and so many others. That intro music came from Will Evans' song Hoka Hey off his 2018 album Rise. You can find more of Will Evans at Will Evans Music. In this episode, I sit down with Peter Walters. Peter is a yoga instructor living in California's Bay Area. We connected through the upcoming Om Rising Festival where Peter will be teaching this summer. In this conversation, we discuss how Peter found yoga, bhakti yoga and definitions of God, advice for yoga teachers, the power of saying, I don't know, and much more. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you about my sponsors. The first is this summer's Om Rising Yoga and Music Festival. This event takes place in Camp Navarro's Redwood Forest between August 16th and 19th. There will be live music, over 10 yoga classes per day, sound healing, ecstatic dance, great food, and heart-centered community. And if you enjoyed today's episode, you'll have the opportunity to take classes with Peter himself. Visit omrising.org and use the coupon code Humboldt to get 10% off your purchase order. This episode is also sponsored by the Karma Yogis over at The Cosm. The Cosm is a men's yoga fitness clothing company that's built on the yogic principles of right action. They are a certified B Corporation. They source fabrics from a company that reprocesses clothing destined for the landfill. They pay their employees living wages and give 5% of all sales back to yoga empowerment projects for at-risk groups like combat veterans. Troy and Derek, the founders, are sending a powerful message to the business community and leading the way in the conscious capitalism movement. Visit thecosm.com, and that's Cosm spelled K-O-Z-M, and use the coupon code HL10 to get 10% off your purchase order. And now to today's episode. As always, I hope you'll find something worth keeping. Enjoy. Can you tell me how you found yoga?
Sure. It was a girlfriend. I was I was working in tech, and I was going to the gym about every day. And my girlfriend said, "You got to come to this class. It's quite an experience." And I resisted. I said no for probably several weeks. And she was like, just come. Like, it's ecstatic, it's powerful, it's sweaty, it's strong. And I was like, all right, let's try it out. So this was at Urban Flow in San Francisco, and Rusty Wells was the teacher. And when I first walked in, you start sweating immediately. There's classical Indian music blaring from the room, and there's 120 plus people chattering excitedly with each other. It was sort of a type of experience I'd never had or never really envisioned that yoga could be. So I walked in, I was really skeptical about what I was getting into. It started with chanting in Sanskrit, and I was like, I don't know what we're saying. Like, I was resisting it in my mind. But then eventually I kind of gave in and just started chanting, not knowing what I was saying or what it meant or anything. And the yoga poses all felt pretty good. I think I sort of had a natural inclination for the movements. And by the end of class, I was bawling and in a pile of sweat. And, after that first Shavasana, I released something potent that I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was or why I was crying. But I realized something had shifted. And I kept going back almost every day for a couple of years before I took my first training.
What do you think that initial resistance was when your girlfriend first started telling you, hey, you should come and check out this yoga class? She was obviously excited.
What do you think the preconceived notions and resistance in your mind was that prevented you from going?
Yeah, I mean, probably stuff about like masculinity and men doing yoga, which is so funny because yoga started off as strictly just for men, and now it's become, fairly dominated by women. And it just, I don't know. I was tight-minded at the time. I was resisting what was foreign, what I didn't know. It was. I can't put my finger on why I was saying no.
Well, I'm sure you're happy you went. And what do you think now that, in hindsight, that you've been in the yoga space for how many years now?
I guess it began in 2011.
Okay. So now that you've had this experience and you've worked with other people and I'm sure brought people to yoga, what do you think that release was, those tears? What do you think that was?
I think it was sort of the existential weight of not knowing why we're here. And it was so much more than was at the surface. It was sort of releasing stuff from my ancestors and from traumas I didn't know I had, and releasing mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual congestion that had added up over the years.
Was your career fairly stressful at that point in tech? Did you feel that?
Tremendously.
Okay.
I worked for my father's food company, running marketing for the company. So I was working with my parents, which I think was stressful in some ways. But the day-to-day wasn't hugely stressful. But I think over time, just sitting at a desk, staring at a screen, kind of questioning the meaning of things adds up,
As any thinking man would.
Totally. And I studied philosophy in college. So,
you did? Okay.
Yeah, I've always sort of been, questioning what the heck we're doing here.
Did you have an introduction to like Eastern or Hindu philosophy?
No, oddly enough.
Okay.
Yeah, my studies was probably 95% Western philosophy. At my
Seems
school.
like a shame.
I know
it's so rich.
In that respect, I didn't know what we were missing. I didn't know what I was missing. So it was.
So you got into yoga pretty hardcore. Was this a Bikram or?
No, this was. My teacher calls it a Bhakti flow. So
okay.
It was his own sort of fusion of Bhakti yoga, which is devotional yoga, that can manifest in many ways through chanting and mantra, through the dedication of practice, and the flow referring to vinyasa. So it was sort of just it was vinyasa fused with the heart. It was a deep heart connection into the more, let's say, a purpose. He infused a regular vinyasa practice with purpose. Why are we here? What are we doing this for? Who would we do it for? So that was my first introduction. And since then, I've explored other modalities of the practice. But my heart, my energy keeps coming back to this, to Bhakti and to vinyasa.
Can you explain what Bhakti means? And then we'll get back into your journey.
Sure. Bhakti is your very personal relationship with God, and it's the God of your own unique understanding. It's not a Christian God or a Hindu God. It's your own connection with the mystery of life. Call it God. The word God doesn't resonate with everybody, or it brings
trauma.
People
are traumatized by it.
Yeah, from religious upbringings that can really taint our experience in connection with the divine, with the wonder of the universe. But this is all about asking yourself, what is important to me? What do I find meaning in beyond me and my and stuff?
Right.
Like when I go beyond work, sleep, play, eat, do again, what is important to me? And that's what I really try to evoke in people when I teach and when I'm practicing my own. Why am I doing this? What is it beyond making my body more lean or flexible or strong? What is that deeper why? And my deeper why in teaching is to help people wake up from a lot of the delusion around our, material world, about the stories around who we think we are. And this can happen in really subtle ways where you don't have to say the word God. And I think that's a lot of the skill of modern yoga teachers, is to bring the full weight of yoga, which includes a lot of stuff that is spiritual, and make it approachable to most people, whether it's to your friend or your grandmother. How can they understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's well said. Like you said, at the beginning of your journey, there was resistance. So when you're teaching students or find yourself in that position, you're up against a lot of, resistance in them, and just cultural programming, conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is important, the fact of meaning. Like in the American culture, there's a lot of cultural critics that would say, basically in mainstream American culture, we're kind of fed this idea that the meaning of life is to pursue wealth and material gain. And it doesn't take too long for people to realize it's hollow. And then you end up, in this existential crisis, which maybe you were at to some degree when you found yoga.
Yeah, and I still experience it. I still experience why are we doing any of this? And I keep coming back to the practice, just sitting quietly with myself and breathing and watching my breath. It can be that simple, and to come into contact with the present moment. It all happens here. It's not in the past or the perceived future. It's all right here. And yoga is one tool to guide us back to right now.
Yeah, it seems so simple, but our minds aren't necessarily wired
right
for that.
The mind resists the present moment.
Right. So you got back in your practice. You said you went back for 2 years to that same teacher, the same practice, the Bhakti Flow.
Yeah, pretty consistently to him and a couple other teachers who shared the practice there, Jason Crandall and Stephanie Snyder, who are also both fantastic, very different teachers here in the Bay.
Okay. And you're deepening into your practice at this time. How is your life changing at this time? The books you read, how you approach relationship with the material world. What's going on in your mind at this time?
Gosh, so much. And it's really an everyday practice. It's not like it's more than that. It's a moment to moment practice of, can I bring my yoga practice into every waking breath? And usually the answer is no. But can I keep shining light on what is happening right now? Whether I'm in a lift, and can I be present with that human, whoever they are, whatever they're talking about, or I'm cleaning dishes or making my bed. Can I bring that same awareness that I bring to the practice on the mat to whatever is in front of me? So, yeah, I guess it's a moment to moment. Wake up right now. That's the depth of the practice. And there's definitely tons of texts that continue to inspire me and remind me that the yoga is here and now, and not just on the yoga mat or even on the meditation cushion, but the real yoga is in the daily challenges, in relationships with friends and significant others and strangers and homeless people. Like, what do you do with all these moments that you might otherwise contract? Yoga is teaching me over time and over falling over and messing up over and over, to keep waking up, to keep opening my eyes a little wider, to keep being extra kind and compassionate to everyone that I encounter, no matter whether I agree with them or disagree with them, but keep showing up fully. That's the teaching that keeps on unfolding to me. And it's not about what's happening on the yoga mat. That's always, that's window dressing for the yoga practice for me.
In a way, that's like the maintenance on the vehicle.
Yeah.
So that you can get on the road and, hopefully carry that equanimity with you into daily life. One of the things I've been grappling with lately, an important spiritual teaching is, we need to have boundaries. It's important to have boundaries. And is there a limit that an individual should have in their compassion? Like, we're not giving away all our money. We're not letting homeless people sleep on our couches. Yeah. What does that look like? I don't know if we're going to answer that one today, but that's just a philosophical riddle I'm throwing up to anyone listening. And I'm sure you've dealt with those thoughts as well.
Totally. My Rusty, my teacher, is always, his sort of rule of thumb was compassionate detachment, especially around students, which is to say, I'm there for you. I see what you're moving through. I'm here, but I'm not going to dive into the details of what you're struggling with. So I don't meet with students outside of class. I don't go out for coffee. I don't befriend students in a way where it can mess with the teachings.
Right.
So, and it's hard because, you get to see people sometimes every day and over some period of years, and they're like, let's go hang out. I'm like, thank you, but we can chat here at the yoga studio if it's about yoga. But to maintain the integrity of the teachings, it's been really important to me to do that. And it's taught me about boundaries in other areas of my life too. To be as kind as possible, but also know where, like you said, the homeless person sleeping on your couch, be kind as you can. But then if they say, can I sleep on your couch? No, thank you. So, it's finding what feels really authentic and knowing when to say no also.
Right. Can you speak on that detachment a little bit? That's a concept that I keep coming across, and I feel as if maybe I've naturally had to come to it. I mean, once you're awake in the world, you see it's so tragic in so many ways.
And
you almost have to detach to survive, or just be like, this is the way things are. I can't solve everything, and that's not our role as individuals.
Yeah, you can't get sucked into every drama,
right?
Whether it's, the destruction of the environment or war or poverty. There's so many massive problems that we all want to help with, but we don't know how. There's a point where you have to say, this isn't my fight, or I will contribute in the ways that I am capable, and then sort of surrender. They say raga and dvesha, these are craving and aversion, are sort of the things that keep us suffering. So to become extra aware of what you're being pulled to and what you're pushing away, and try to sort of soften the edges. Detachment is hard, and it's a very human thing to become attached to the things you want, and the things that you love. And this is stuff and also people.
I mean, in a way, it goes back to the concept of meaning. Like, a lot of people are looking for something, some higher purpose to attach their existence to. So it is interesting. It's a balance. That's Any readings come to mind? I like sharing books, turning people on to new books. I don't want to put you on the spot, but
I'm reading I Am That by what's his name? Sri Nisargadatta
Maharaj. Yeah,
that's it. You knew it.
Yeah,
I'm really loving that. I always turn back to my teacher's book, Bhakti Flow Yoga, the training guide to practice in life. That's by Rusty Wells.
Okay.
I love exploring different translations of the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana. These are just endless sources of books that I can reread. The translation by Ramesh Menon of the Ramayana is amazing. The Living Gita is a wonderful book. Awakening Shakti for stories of the deities. What else do I like? Just looking at my bookshelf as we talk. Paths to God by Ram Dass.
Okay.
Fantastic. Light on Yoga by Iyengar is amazing. There's just a wealth of yogic wisdom through a lot of these texts. Ganesha Goes to Lunch is sort of like short little stories of deities and living yoga. So,
are the deities in your conception, are these all, these are all myths or mythology in my mind, to personify different aspects of creation or God or the universe. Does that ring true to you?
Or even more to exemplify aspects of ourselves.
Okay.
So Ganesh, like, he is represented as this, rotund, elephant-headed deity, but he represents new beginnings and clearing the path and helping us start anew. And Shiva represents death and destruction and rebirth and change. Krishna and Radha represent divine love. So when I have lots of deities and Murtis, the little statues and pictures of them, and when I look at them, I immediately remember the qualities of what they represent. And I'm not looking out there for a Ganesh. I'm not looking for up into the sky and the heavens for that God. I'm looking into myself, that reminder to begin again, to start fresh, or Lakshmi for abundance. So it's not about looking outwards. It's about looking in with these deities, which is so interesting.
Well said. And I'm excited about the book recommendations that you laid out. I haven't heard of several of those books, so
yeah,
I'm a book and information wonk. So thank you.
Yeah.
Tell me about your path of becoming a teacher, and then maybe some of the lessons you learned finding teachers, finding schools, what to do, what not to do.
Well, my first training was with Rusty Wells, and I've done a few with him now, and I now assist all of his trainings when he offers them. And he sort of insisted that I take a training. I wasn't at all looking to teach yoga or even to take a training, but he said, I think you have something that would be a beautiful offering. So I kind of I said, okay. And I dove in and I started teaching at my office just to coworkers for free for the first year, just once or twice a week. And then there was a point when the yoga was just really holding me so much, like it felt like the most important thing to me, that I kind of had to quit my job. I had to tell I was working for my dad, so I had to say, hey, I gotta stop. And he was understanding. So I sort of did a pilgrimage to India, where I lived for 6 months with my partner at the time, where I was intending to study more, and I did. But everywhere I went, I ended up teaching. I got asked to teach, whether it was a studio in Rishikesh or just at a guest house I was staying. So I kept on looking for the teacher that really resonated with my heart and my constitution, but I didn't really find that teacher. So I ended up being the teacher to many people I was meeting, which was unexpected but really beautiful. And that 6 month in India led me to Indonesia, where I practiced for a bit, and then to South Africa, and then to Thailand, and then a trek in Nepal. So it was a year of traveling that was sort of unfolded in front of my eyes with little plan. And then I think by the end of that trip, I was clear that I didn't want to work at a desk. I didn't want to just do things on the internet for the sake of selling things. So when I came back, I think this was in 2015, I decided I was going to attempt to teach full time. All the while still taking trainings. I started studying with Janet Stone and Jason Crandall here in San Francisco. And they sparked new curiosities about the practice, and really brought different aspects of yoga really into my heart and into my mind in a way that I hadn't before. When I first started teaching, I was teaching probably 20 classes a week, just trying to make it all work and trying to make enough money for rent.
Seems like a lot.
It was indeed a lot. A lot of newer teachers do that, thinking public classes will be your primary source of income. So, over the years, I started refining what I was teaching, finding my voice, and starting to do workshops and retreats and teaching at festivals, and slowly sort of chipping away at how to make this really a lifestyle and not feel like a job. So I never feel like I'm going to work. It doesn't feel like my business. It just feels like I'm sharing a practice that excites me and inspires me to help others see more clearly.
That's beautiful. So you obviously learned a lot on this path to building your lifestyle as a teacher and communicator. And do you have tips for other teachers out there that are just starting, or people that are even, I know coaching is popular these days.
Yeah.
Any advice or lessons learned along the way that you'd like to pass on to any listeners?
Yeah, I'm always tempted to give advice, but then I realized, like, I've never walked in your shoes. People are like, tell me what trainings to take, or, and I'm like, I don't know. What are you interested in?
Right.
Yoga is so vast, and the way that teachers communicate can be so different. Some can be very anatomy and alignment and sequencing focused, and you can dive deep into the body, and that's amazing. And then others are all about the mythology and the bhakti and the stories and the chanting and the mantra, and trying to prescribe that to somebody or even suggest it for me seems like I'm doing a disservice. So I always say, like, try out a bunch of teachers and classes and see what resonates with you. And then I also would say, like, find your own voice. And it sounds kind of just vague, but as soon as you finish a teacher training, you're going to have the voice and the languaging of your teacher. You're going to have, all the words you say are going to sound like your teacher. But it's important that you speak authentically as you. And I think that's a skill that comes over time of just teaching thousands of classes, but just being you and being authentically you, and not using words because somebody told you should. If God doesn't resonate with you, maybe don't talk about God yet. If the sequence you're handed feels weird in your body, try something else. And also I would say, don't rely on public classes for your primary source of income. So, like, stay with your other job until you started to figure out the yoga thing.
Yeah. And you're in the Bay Area. That's a hard place to make it, just because the cost of living is high.
Yeah, the cost
I'd
of
imagine.
living, and there's probably thousands of yoga teachers and 50 yoga studios. So yeah, especially here, it's tough. So I think people crave authenticity. And that was something I was willing to be generally from the beginning of teaching, to speak honestly and to a little bit throw away some of the script that the yoga teacher should sound like, or the stuff you should say. I was willing to go out on a limb and talk about life as I experienced it in a way that people could resonate with.
Yeah, I think especially for males, being able to show a little, vulnerability, it's refreshing for people and lets people realize, like, okay, I'm not alone.
Totally.
It's really not part of our culture.
And also, I guess one more tip is to maintain, to remember that you are human too. I see a lot of teachers who sort of put themselves on pedestals of, I've got it figured out, I'm a yoga teacher. But the reality of that is it's bullshit for most folks, that they are indeed human. They are indeed also addicted to their cell phones and struggle in relationships and struggle with whatever the thing is that everybody else is, that we are not higher or more awake than other people. We're going through it too. We've been given tools to try to work through it, but most every yoga teacher I know, even the most advanced who have been teaching for 20 years, are still very much human and living in the muck of life also. Yeah,
that's such an important point. And I think just having the pedestal of, being the teacher might, if someone's not careful about it, maybe paint them in the corner of having to be the expert suddenly, and then they form this thing in their head. So that's important for anyone.
One of the most important teachings I learned was, the powerful words. I don't know. When people ask, like, hey, I have this injury, what should I do about it? I'll first say, I don't know. And second, you should contact your medical provider, and not be a doctor, not be a physical therapist, not be a therapist. A lot of people come for relationship advice. And the yoga space, the space of the yoga practice in the studio, is really ripe for bringing up emotional stuff. And I don't want to prescribe anybody anything or say, oh yeah, quit your job, break up with your partner. Like, it's people are so open after these classes.
Yeah.
I realize I'm not trained to support them in that change. You know, I can put the yoga on a platter and say, here, take this, and then that's on you to make these challenging decisions, with yoga as sort of helping you soften.
Yeah, that sounds right on. That's an important point. I feel like there's an impulse within people to want to play the part of the guru, especially in the spiritual world. So to be able to say, that's not my role. I don't want to be involved in your stuff. Totally. And you know, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of books on all these topics. So you can always point people to a bookshelf is important too.
And I'm happy to point people to my teachers too, you know, because I know that they carry wisdom from their teachers. You know, this is a lineage, you know, branching lineages that have been passed down and sort of remixed and evolved in many ways. That I'm always so grateful seeing students who practice with me at my teachers' classes. It makes me happy.
Now, this brings up a interesting point, especially in the yoga literature, and you brought up Nisargadatta Maharaj earlier. There is, it appears, just from reading the literature and, you know, different experiences that many yogis talk about, there is like a baseline reality, free of all the delusion, free of all the misperception that yoga can lead you to if you're primed for it karmically or just constitutionally. So I feel like there's got to be teachers in this space that are pretty clear channels, but it's obviously something that you have to feel deeply within in yourself as a gauge for it. Any comments on that?
Sure. You know, I don't know about the nature of reality. I have my own thoughts, but you know, and I read these books that talk about this could be a simulation, or the world isn't real, and that everything is one thing, and that God is everything. So I'm totally cool saying I don't know. I don't try to teach people enlightenment. I try to teach them to wake up to the present moment, and to be kinder, and to be more compassionate, to be more forgiving. So all I can say is I don't know. I see clear channels in certain teachers for sure, in my own teachers, and Adyashanti, and some amazing spiritual teachers and yogis. Are they enlightened? Are they awake? I don't know. You know, there's this phrase about saying, like, when you meet the Buddha, if somebody here claims to be enlightened, turn around and run away, or kill the Buddha. Because you are the Buddha, and if you see somebody who is saying they are the Buddha, you've been tricked.
You've been had.
So I have no idea. I can make all sorts of guesses and assertions, but in the end, I am fishing in the dark just as much as the rest of us. And I think anybody who makes any claims to say this is definitely the nature of reality needs to rethink it, you know?
Right.
Because nobody knows.
Yeah.
So
it's once you step into this world, it can get kind of disorienting, I would say.
Yeah. Between yoga practice and meditation and psychedelics, people have really powerful awakening experiences. And I think those offer us little glimpses into the unknown, useful glimpses. I think they can show us powerful insights and different layers or realms of reality. But the ultimate reality, I don't know, you know.
I think that's the wisest thing that anyone can say.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
And is there even value talking about it? I don't know.
Yeah. I like thinking about it.
I do too.
Why we are here. Who am I? That's the question they kept on mentioning in this book. You keep on asking yourself, who am I? Who am I? Not trying to label you from all your stories and your job and your past, but who is the essential I that I call me? That's the rich stuff. And strip away, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm not these experiences. And what are you left with? Awareness. I'm awareness.
I mean, when I read books like Nisargadatta Maharaj's I Am That, that's just discourses.
Yeah.
It kind of, it's almost like he's teaching a form of dissociation.
Yeah.
Which,
totally.
I mean, there's value in all those things, to step away from what you think you are, like you said, and get a new angle on it.
That's right.
And I know Ram Dass talks about that with the psychedelic experience as well, which is kind of how he got into the spiritual waters.
Exactly. And I love how Ram Dass's teachings, I mean, yes, he had a stroke, but his teachings have gotten so much more simple. He'll say just like, be kind, and just put a big grin on his face. It's not these long, locucious, teachings. It's become, he's really distilled it down to the essence of these wonderful, powerful teachings. Be love, be kind.
Yeah, he was living in a pretty heady time when he was giving lectures, just coming back from India with spending time with his guru. I've listened to some of those old lectures, and man, kind of seemed pretty electric.
Totally.
Pretty cool time. And we're living in just as cool of a time. I mean, we've got the internet. Ideas are spreading quickly. Like, how quickly do new topics come to the forefront of public consciousness and conversation? I think that's been pretty quick. I think it's pretty exciting.
I agree.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about some of the workshops you do, and then we'll get into Om Rising and the offerings you have. I don't know if you have anything online for that's not local, but we'll get into all that.
I like workshops that awaken joy. So I kind of veer away from like hips and hamstrings, body part specific workshops. Because that's not my strongest suit, is anatomy and sequencing. That's not what I offer. I think my offer is getting people to smile and laugh and shake out some of the mind stuff and just be in community, be in play, be in presence. So I do stuff like I do like a Saturday night live class at one studio a few times a year, where we bring in a live musician, we put on candles all over the room, and we talk about yoga, really life, for about half an hour, and then we chant for a while, and then we have a strong practice to live music. And it's late night, so it's on a Saturday night. It's a fun alternative to, going to a bar, going to a show. But it's healthy and sweaty and a fun way to spend a late Saturday night. So those types of things. And then, a reggae themed workshop or Motown, So I like to I keep it light. I like to make it all about the heart. How can we crack this person's heart open? How can we remind you to lay down your weapons and take off your armor and soften the front brain thinking that's been working so hard all day and all week. Just get people back into their body, get back into a smile, a softening of life. That's sort of my intention around workshops.
That's light work.
To help people realize and feel light. I think you said it actually.
Right.
To see to remember their own light, to feel levity. Because with all the politics and with the world falling apart in some ways, it's easy to go down into negativity and sort of fall down a hole of everything's going to hell. But to remember, right now things are okay. In this very moment right here, you are okay. I think that's the deepest and simplest teaching I know. We are far more okay than we thought.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Do you have your itinerary set up for Om Rising this year?
I think I'm doing a similar offering to what I did last year. And last year it was a reggae celebration class, but so we had live music from this amazing musician named Sarita. I'm not sure if she's coming this year, but reggae and flow. And then I did a blindfolded class
Interesting.
last year with a friend Ege playing live music where people do yoga blindfolded, and then we have them move around in kind of primal ways and stop and just feel a pine cone and really just use other senses. Pratyahara, to withdraw the outward gaze and to feel inward. So that's fun. And then I do a straight up Bhakti flow class with a fun playlist. So nothing complicated. I'm not trying to teach people esoteric yoga or bring in sutras. I'm just trying to make it sweet and joyous and celebratory. For me, that's plenty.
That's great. And I went to Om Rising last year, and that's what I needed. That's what I was looking for. So I'm glad that there's teachers out there spreading that. And where can people find you? Online or in the Bay?
Sure. So I teach at Love Story Yoga in the Mission. That's Stephanie Snyder's studio. And I teach at Yoga Tree and Yoga Works on the Divisadero, and at the Assembly, which is an all-women's co-working and sweating place. So it's a beautiful co-working spot where they have a studio downstairs where they offer all sorts of classes, and they have been kind enough to let me teach there. And I just moved to Mill Valley, so I'll be teaching also at Red Dragon Yoga out here. And then I offer audio yoga classes, meditations, and sort of Dharma talks on an app called Move With. So all this is on my website at peteryoga.com. And I have a couple of retreats coming up. One locally here in the Bay, just an hour and a half from the city. I'll be leading with my friend Leah in September. It's like a 3-day digital detox retreat to a farm. And then we're heading to Bali in October to go to Uluwatu. So a lot of fun stuff coming up.
All right. And you're a busy man.
It doesn't feel it, which is nice.
Yeah, it's good.
So it feels spacious.
Well, I appreciate your time tonight, Peter, and I'm excited to check out your offerings at Om Rising.
Yeah, thanks a lot for making the time, and looking forward to meeting you in person.
Likewise.